In this day and age, modern technology like smartphones are carried around by most everyone, and for good reason too. Modern technologies like the smartphone have made our lives much easier, and this is because we can use them for a wide variety of different tasks. One common use of smartphones is for problem solving. If we're lost, we'll open a mapping application. If we don't know the time, we'll look at our phone screen. Say something minor happens, like we forget a ruler and we need to measure something. Well, there's definitely a measuring app for that, and if not, we can always use Google. However, it wasn't always this easy to solve our problems with smartphones. In fact, smartphones weren't created until a little while ago, really, and in the grand scheme of things, this is true for most digital technology. So, what kind of devices did we use before this time period to help us solve our problems? This is a question that Doug is about to find the answer to. Doug McDougall is a 13-year-old Boy Scout who is passionate about the outdoors, passionate about learning new things, and of course, loves to impress his parents and his peers with all the new and fun badges he's earned. Right now, Doug is trying to earn his Astrolabe badge. This badge requires him to complete 3 problem-solving tasks in an outdoor setting without the help of any modern technology. Instead, he has to use an ancient problem-solving tool called an astrolabe. He, like many people, has never heard of an astrolabe before, but after reading through a description provided in his scout book, he discovers it is a wayfinding and measuring tool used centuries ago, even before the telescope was invented. In fact, they fell out of use around the turn of the 17th century. He also learns about the components of an astrolabe. The mother is the base and has a front and back side. The mother front has a ret and a rule attached to it, and the mother back has an alidade. All the components, except for the mother, rotate like a clock, so they can be configured in different ways to complete different tasks. Doug is also informed that his astrolabe has to be made with specific latitude and longitude in mind, because otherwise he would not get accurate measurements, which defeats the whole purpose of the device. For Doug, this means that his astrolabe will be oriented to the latitude, longitude, and time zone of Calgary, Alberta. Through his research, Doug also discovers that there are tons of different types of astrolabes, and because there are tons of different types, they're also made of lots of different materials. Commonly, astrolabes are made out of wood, metals, and paper, and Doug has decided for the sake of ease he's going to make his out of paper. The badge Doug is trying to earn requires him to complete 3 tasks. There are over 100 tasks that one can complete with an astrolabe, including, but not limited to, measuring the position of the stars, calculating the time of day or the year, or determining the altitude of an object. Doug decides that for his first task, he will use an astrolabe to determine the altitude of a star, because he knows that historically, this is often what astrolabes were used for. The stars were often used for navigation, so knowing the altitude of the stars helped people to find their way, even if they didn't have a map. While using the stars to find our way might not be common practice anymore, telling the time still is. Doug learns how to tell the time of day with an astrolabe by using the sun. It is more complex than finding the altitude of the stars, but Doug is excited because now he can tell the time without needing access to a cell phone or even a watch. For his last step, Doug decides that he will learn to measure a building's elevation, and realizes that the steps are almost exactly the same as the ones he used to find the altitude of the stars. There's only one extra step and boom, he's found the elevation of a building in degrees. He's beginning to understand how versatile this tool is. In fact, Doug is amazed by how many tasks this small, handheld device can complete, and he's only learned a few of them. His scout leader asks him to explain the astrolabe to his troop, and he starts by saying that really, an astrolabe is kind of like a smartphone. And Doug is right. An astrolabe is like a smartphone. No, we can't use an astrolabe to phone others or scroll through social media or use it to connect to the World Wide Web. But when it comes to solving problems, both devices are really useful to have on hand. One parallel that can be drawn between smartphone users and Astrolabe users is how they use the tool. If a smartphone user was lost, they would open a mapping application and find where they needed to go. Same goes for an Astrolabe user, just with albeit a couple more steps. Doug has now done his research. He knows what an astrolabe is, what parts it has, and what is required to use it. He knows how to successfully complete 3 tasks with the device, and he even knows why these tasks are useful. He's definitely deserving of his new astrolabe badge. But beyond this, Doug now understands how impressive astrolabes were as devices in their day. They complete many of the same tasks that our modern devices do, just in different ways. When it comes down to it, they're both just devices meant to help us get through each day, one step at a time. Like Doug, you can also learn about astrolabes, even if you're not trying to get a badge for it. Learning about an astrolabe and how to use it is a fantastic way to connect with the technologies of the past and gain an appreciation for them, as well as the human race's ability to make problem-solving technologies that are actually helpful. Now that you've heard this explanation on astrolabes, this is your chance to go learn and use this historic technology. Understanding all the different functions of an astrolabe can be difficult and overwhelming at first. But once you get the hang of it, you'll have so much fun using this measuring and wayfinding device from the past.